Hello, welcome to Cat's Got Your Tongue, the podcast in association with the charity Cats Protection. I'm your host, Adam Brown, a self-confessed cat obsessive and a very proud cat dad as well. Now, in each episode of this podcast, we will be bringing you celebrity guests who love their cats just as much as I do and just as much as you do. Now remember, if you are listening to the show, we do our full episodes up on YouTube as well, so if you want to watch any of the episodes in full, you can head on over there. And as always, we want to hear your funny feline stories, your cat dilemmas, anything related to the world of cats. You can get in touch either by email on pod@cats.org.uk, or you can send us a text or a voice note to our WhatsApp. Just open up WhatsApp and send it to 07824 551 076. Let's get into it. So, if you've heard the podcast before, you'll know that, well, I'll be honest with you, I'm just obsessed with cats. My whole life revolves around them, but there's still loads that I don't know about them. So, regular listeners to this podcast will know that each week I'm joined by our cat expert from Cats Protection, Nikki. She's off on her holidays for a couple of weeks, but don't worry, we've got someone who's jumped in at the last minute to help us out. Alison Richards, Head of Clinical Services at Cats Protection, joining us. Alison, welcome.
Oh, thanks so much, Adam. I'm really happy to be here.
Yeah, we're happy to have you here. So, I mean, introduce yourself to our listeners. Tell us a little bit about your role at Cats Protection.
Hi, everyone. Yeah, so I'm Alison. I'm Head of Clinical Services. Bit of a mouthful. Basically, I'm the lead vet for the charity. And I've got an amazing team of vets, behaviourists, cat welfare experts who support our organisation to make sure that the cats in our care have the best possible lives, and also to support the cats beyond Cats Protection's care to have the best possible lives and improve cat welfare. So it's an incredible role. I've been with the charity for about 6 years, and prior to that I was a vet in practice sort of in the southeast of London, so lots of experience sort of helping people with their cats over the years.
And I mean, probably a bit of a daft question, but have you got a cat?
I have, yes. I have a little old man called Smarty Cat. He has been with me for many years now. I think he's about 17, 18. He was a rescue. He actually came from, so my first job in practice, he came in as a stray, and turned out we scanned him, checked for a microchip. We actually found a chip, and the owner sadly didn't want him, which it was so sad. He essentially was going to just come and stay with me for the weekend whilst the local charity.
Never happens, that does it? I know,
the rest is history. You can all see where the story went, and he's been with us for like about 15 years or something ridiculous like that. So and he's still going strong. So
that's always that thing when you're like, oh well, just take the cat for a week, and it just never happens. No, it's just if you're taking a cat for a week or 2 weeks, you're going to end up owning the cat. That's just fact. Also, when Nikki's on the podcast, she's kind of like a bit of an agony aunt for my problems with my cat.
Okay.
So anything I have issue-wise, I'll just ask her and she can advise me on it. Latest thing with Ruby, my cat, she's obsessed with anything that's like a novelty. So a shirt on the floor or a new mat. I've put a mat down, and it's meant, like in the bathroom, like a shower mat, and she's on there straight away.
That is interesting. So I guess, the saying goes, curiosity killed the cat. They are curious creatures. They do like to kind of get to know their surroundings. And she probably sees your home as her kingdom. Cats are really territorial. And what's really interesting, I mean, I think cats are so fascinating. They do a lot of their interactions and their communications through scent and through pheromones that we can't even smell. So we've got, no awareness of this, but they've developed this kind of communication method. And it's almost a way of kind of making their home feel like it's their own. So whereas we might go and, I don't know, light a scented candle and, cook some nice food, a cat's idea is to get their pheromones everywhere, so everything smells like them. So I suspect part of it is just her doing her natural exploratory, what's this new thing in my environment? But some of it as well might be like, well, this is going to be in my home now, so I'm going to make it smell like me. So it all feels very recognisable. But yeah, cats will be able to smell out. It's really interesting as well when you've got kind of multiple cats in a household. The cats always behave slightly differently. If those cats have gone to the vets or something, they're kind of like, hang on, things smell a bit different in here.
Yeah.
What's going on here?
Well, it's just like anything that I put. I'm going on holiday next week, and I got the suitcase down ready, and I opened it and I turned back and she sat in the suitcase then, and I'm like,
yeah, classic.
Honestly, I was like, what? I can't move. Even if I just rearrange something in the house, or, she's got about 10 beds, various. My house isn't big, do you know what I mean? But it's just different beds that I've bought for her over the years. And I can move one from one part of the house to another, and it's like it's something new, and suddenly it's the best thing she's ever seen.
Yeah.
But she's just, honestly, I mean, I love her to bits, but she's so and that's what I love about her so much. I can never predict what she's going to do next. Like, I'll come back in from work and finish a radio show, and I'll come back and it's like, oh, she's decided that's the new place, is it? And that'll be for a few days, and then she'll move on to somewhere else then. And
Nice.
yeah, you know what? She's doing no harm, is she?
No,
nothing
absolutely.
to worry about, is it though?
No, I don't think so. And it sounds like she's just being cat. But the suitcase thing is classic. Like, I don't think I've ever packed a suitcase without a cat ending up in it. It's perfect for a cat. It's like a nice little hidey hole. It's got all your stuff that smells of you. And
yeah, I just think, and she looks as to say, I love this. Like, she looks at me as if this is great. I'm like, right, don't get used to it. So yeah. There's something that will happen quite regularly if you appear on the podcast again, that I'll probably ask more questions about Ruby, because I have a million questions that I still don't know. Every day is like a learning day for me with her. So a bit later on, we're going to go through your cat's tales in the second part of the show. But first, Alison, you've joined us on a very special day on Cat's Got Your Tongue, because we have got someone I've described recently as my dream guest on this podcast. I'm so excited about getting him on. Should we get him in?
Yeah, I think so.
Let's do it. So let's get on to today's guest. I mean, where to start? He's a comedian, author, TV presenter, actor, someone who I recently named as my dream guest on this podcast in the Cat magazine. It's Bob Mortimer. How are you?
Hello. How are you doing?
I don't say that to every guest, by the way. I don't say that. Is genuinely, I did name you as my dream guest for this podcast.
Oh, well, thanks for having me. There's nothing I like to talk about more than cats.
Well, you're in the right place.
Especially my cat.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, I think it's always a good place to start, really, where we kind of like to get a bit of insight into our guest history with cats. So, I mean, tell us about your current sort of cat situation.
My current situation is I have only one cat, which makes me sad, called Goodmonson. And he's a tabby oriental with the big ears and the big teeth and the thin tail. He's a nice lad. He's a really good lad. I've had him, he's 14. I got him with his sister, who was called Mavis, but Mavis passed away last year. So I always feel I don't know whether they miss each other. It's hard to tell. We like to think that they do, you know.
Yeah.
But he's great, and it's such a lovely sunny day today, and he's got a good long stretch on him.
Is he?
Those Orientals are a very long cat, and he loves to get out in the dust, stretch, soak up the sun. I want his life, you know.
Yeah. So does he get out and about then? Is he indoor, or is he outdoor as well?
Outdoor. No criticism, but I've never felt comfortable with an indoor cat. And it's probably fine, but I've never felt comfortable with it. I did try an indoor cat once. I was living in a homeless hostel in Peckham, and I was on the first floor, and I had a little balcony, and I had my cat Billy, who was a tuxedo, long-haired bus driver, and he found a way. He was clever enough to get out on the balcony, get onto a little shed roof, so he was a sort of semi-outdoor cat.
Yeah.
But I didn't like seeing him just staring out of the window, watching life go by. It's like it's a metaphor for us oldies. Now I feel like him now, just watching life go by out of the window.
Cat names, I can't sort of get too far into this podcast without talking about cat names. So, you know, a few examples: Sergeant Walnuts, Ken Walk, Aromatic Pat.
Aromatic Pat, yeah. He was aromatic
right.
as well, I tell you.
So, how'd you come up with him?
It's just something I do for fun, you know, like I've always liked, when I was doing comedy scripts and stuff back with Vic Reeves, we always had just fun naming our characters. And it's just an outlet for that, really, because there isn't much of a market for cat names. Not really.
So, is it true that some people have, you know, sort of bought names from you, obviously with money going to Cats Protection, and they say, name my cat for me, Bob?
No, I'll name people's cats. I don't for free. But I think my wife Lisa has done some cat name related things that with a percentage, or maybe all of it, I think, going to Cats Protection. Because my cat rules my house, as they do in many houses. He defines the house, you know, and so it's just so much part of your life. I like making up stories. I've written a load of stories just for myself about the adventures of different cats who live in a town together. And And I did that really just to pass the time naming different cats.
When you say you've written about, have you actually sort of scripted this, or is it just in your mind?
No, I've written. My mum used to tell me a story about my very first cat, Billy. Such a wonderful cat, and she used to tell me that Billy, when he wasn't in the home, he was driving doing a bus service for the cats that lived in the area. And I don't know, we all probably have one little story from our childhood that still resonates, and it was always Billy the bus driver cat with me. So just trying to copy me mum, really. It's fun.
So obviously, let's just kind of go back to names as well. So, Goodmonson, how did that come about?
I can't remember. I would guess it has something to do with my sons and the footballer. He's not quite Goodmonson.
Goodmonson, yeah, right, okay. Yeah,
that's my guess.
So, Icelandic football player? Yeah.
So that's quite a rich theme for names, is very Northern Hemisphere football teams.
So, presumably, he was one of your son's favourite players at the time?
I think that, I don't know for sure.
It must be that.
I think so, yeah. And I always used to call my pets Billy, because I loved my first cat so much, Billy. And then when I moved out of London, I got a dog, a Dalmatian. That was Billy. Then my next cat was a Billy. But then I just went more freeform, and I had Chester. He was called Chester Drawers. But Chester, Tina, and Noodles was my next set. Chester was a drummer and ran away with his drum kit to play. I don't know. I hope he's still playing.
Yeah.
Hope so. Tina was very thin, black cat that had fancy ideas, jewellery, crowns. That was what she liked. And Noodles was kind of a little gangster. But they're all gone. Makes me sad thinking about them now. Chester won't still be about, because that's a long time ago. Cat names. Why not? You're going to say them enough, aren't you?
Well, this is it. I know, exactly. Do you find that you end up giving nicknames as well, so it doesn't just stick to the one nick? Because I find that with my cat. My cat will often from her initial name, it'll then kind of, I don't know, transform into something that doesn't even appear like the original name towards the end.
Yeah, I never call him Goodmonson. It's always Monson.
Yeah.
And Mavis became Maeve, but. Nice names and nice food, and my cat's happy.
Yeah, what do they like? Are they fussy?
Food-wise, no, I think that I'm fussy. He has fresh chicken at 6:00, and some of those biscuits in the morning.
Yeah.
And if he's been a good lad, he gets some lamb's liver. Hope that's okay.
That's fine though, isn't it? Yeah.
I wouldn't go too much on the liver, because there is quite a lot of vitamin A in liver, so it wouldn't be like an everyday thing. But the odd little bit of liver,
well, if he's been a good lad, do you know what I mean?
And he rarely is. Yeah. Could I ask you at the moment, little Goodmonson, his breath is smelling very badly.
Okay.
And the few peeps he gives us into his mouth.
Yeah.
I think he's got some problems, and he doesn't appear to be in any pain, has no trouble eating. And I took him to the vets, and they said, well, he's 14, not sure if it's not causing him any trouble, not sure whether the risk of the anaesthetic is worth it. What do you reckon?
Oh, interesting question. So, dental disease is super common in cats, particularly older cats. So my cat, Smarty, he didn't have a dental so long ago. He's about 17, 18 now.
Wow.
The thing I would say is, firstly, think about cats as prey species. They are so good at hiding pain. And cats will eat through some pretty horrific dental disease. Some of the cats who come into my clinic and owners have said, he's eating fine. And you're doing the dental and the teeth are just popping out. They are masters at disguising pain. So that's the first thing I'd say. But the other thing is, we've done so much, the vet profession have done a lot to improve the safety of anaesthetics in older pets. And there's lots that we can do ahead of a dental. So we can take some bloods and make sure that things like the liver and kidneys are all functioning okay. You know, if he's in good health, if his bloods are all okay, there's bits and bobs like kind of we can use sort of fluids to support their blood pressure through the anaesthetic. So I think if he's well in himself and he's 14 and there's some dental disease there, if there is actual dental disease and he's not just, you know, got halitosis or smelly breath for another reason, then I think it would be my recommendation to go for it. But always take your cat's an individual and your vet will be making an individual recommendation. But I wouldn't be too concerned about an anaesthetic in an older cat if they were okay otherwise.
He looks in good nick to me. It's I like it that as they get older, they're not so bothered about hunting birds and mice and things. Makes you feel more comfortable with your little friend.
Is he slowing down a little bit now? Is he a bit more calm?
He's got his routine and he's calm, and he's a very, very pretty cat.
Yeah,
very proud of that.
Yeah.
It's just probably a bad thing to be so, and I saw once doing something with cats protection, and they were saying people don't get black cats because they don't take very good photographs.
Yeah, which is true. This is something.
Isn't
that terrible?
Yeah,
black cats
terrible.
are beautiful.
I know.
I mean,
Yeah,
they're gorgeous, aren't they?
Yeah.
But there you go.
Yeah, it's been a problem. Like we found at Cats Protection is that we tend to have so many black cats up for adoption that and it's just a complete common misconception. And people have these things about black cats being unlucky and all these ridiculous preconceptions about it. So it's something that we really kind of want to drive more, people to be even more open to adopting black cats. So that's just great that you think that, Bob.
Yeah, no, I've had
beautiful.
3 black cats. They're absolutely gorgeous.
Beautiful, aren't they?
My one Billy was, the tuxedo ones, and some of them had that incredibly long shirt.
Yeah.
Because he used to get halfway along and get stuck.
Yeah.
And I always enjoyed that very much. No, black cat's great.
Yeah, my cat's got Ruby. She's tortoise shell, like calico, but tortoise shell with white, basically. Yeah. And she's got that shirt and I know exactly. So she get halfway through cleaning, and then it's still stuck on her tongue.
Yeah.
And I was like, "No, you're not finished yet. You need to carry on." So yeah, bless her. But yeah, no, I know what you mean. I have this real sense of pride that she's a semi-long haired as well. So she's
nice.
She's very. I don't know. I'm just have this intense. I've not got any kids, me, so she's just like my baby. Yeah. So I'm like, she's very, 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 very pretty little cat.
Well, I wish her good health.
Yeah, no, she's great. She actually had a little bit of. She's had some problems recently. She's been diagnosed with hypothyroidism. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I don't know if you've ever heard of that before.
I haven't. No.
Yeah, so she's on medication for it now. So she had to go for blood tests and. They basically said that she was eating fine. Again, I think it's like what you said, Alison, with cats being able to kind of hide things. Appetite fine, but she was getting really skinny. So I took her to the vets and they just said, hypothyroidism. So she's on these medications. So I took her back and they said it's all good. It's going in the right direction. So honestly, I was so...
That's awful.
Yeah, I was, I was so panicked and nervous and having to leave her at the vets and all this. And I was just, honestly, if you've ever, when you've had a cat that's been... ill or it's horrible. It's just a horrible, and people don't understand. If they don't got a cat, they don't get it. Like I had friends going, "What's the problem?" I'm like, "You don't understand. Like this is like my child. Like honestly." So she is in good health at the moment.
Oh, that's good.
So Bob, tell me a little bit more about some of your art when it comes to cats. Prints. You've done some prints before.
Yeah, my wife does them. I have no artistic ability at all, but. They're just sort of prints with my cat names inside the prints. They're very popular. They're pretty, and she tries to do different types of cats, Orientals or all the different types, so that people can sort of get the one that's most approximate to their cat. It's just to raise money for Cats Protection because. I went to the, I think they call it the UK Centre.
Mm-hmm. UK Cat Centre.
UK Cat Centre in down near East Grinstead, and it's a very lovely place. One, a nice place to go to, and secondly, to see some of the care that's been given to the sick animals or those animals with cat AIDS and so on. I mean, it breaks your heart, but it's just lovely to think that there's a place looking after them, And it's I think I'm right in saying it's a great place to get a cat from as well.
Absolutely is, yeah.
You'll be getting the real deal, looked after, ready to go.
Yeah.
Ready to take your curtains to pieces.
Hopefully not.
Yeah. So, Bob, are you the favourite, would you say, in your household of the cat? Because I think I always find that cats do tend to have a favourite person that they kind of gravitate towards. And if you're the chosen one, it's great, isn't it?
It's the wife's the chosen one.
Really? Oh.
Could I ask you, Alison? My wife, she'd probably seen something on social media, and she said to me, "Look, cats really love having the bum tapped." Mm-hmm. And since Lisa became the bum tapper, she's like double favourite now. He really seems to like it.
Yeah, so it does depend a bit from cat to cat. So not every cat is going to like his. So she does the thing where she sort of strokes and he kind of does the. Ooh.
No, just
okay.
Just taps the butt, just gently taps it.
Okay.
And he absolutely adores it.
So that's one that I think is probably a fairly individual preference. It wouldn't be like one I'd say like that's your sort of starting place from a sort of like, cuddling perspective. Cats tend to like, well, everything on their own terms, as you probably know. Yeah. So always offering the opportunity and giving them the opportunity to say, maybe not. But sort of generally around their cheeks, they've got kind of some really nice scent glands around their cheeks. I think cats are a little bit devious. It's probably the wrong word to use. But I think sometimes we can think that they're like having a nice cuddle, but what they're actually doing is they've got these pheromone scent glands in their cheeks. They're actually making you smell like them. Yeah. So that's kind of why they really like having like a little smooch around their cheeks and maybe a tickle of their ears and stuff like that. But that's probably where I'd start with a cat who's obviously receptive to having a stroke. But bum tap, it's probably an area that like a lot of cats are going to turn around and say, nah, I'm not okay with that.
No, it surprised me. It did surprise. I'm feeling a bit rotten, Alison, about saying I don't like the idea of indoor cats. So I should. It's fine, is it?
So it's a really good point. And I think we can give a good life for cats indoors if we provide the right stuff for them. So I guess like the idea of enrichment, essentially cats need to be able to exhibit their natural behaviour. So you need to be thinking about kind of making sure those cats are having opportunities to play. So things like fishing rod toys, interacting with your cats, making sure they've got plenty of resources. So have they got a place to hide? Have they got a place that they can hang out up high? Are their resources in the right place? Like you want to make sure that their toilet is nice and far away from their food bowl and their water bowl. All of those need to be separate. But there are things that we can do to make an indoor life really enriching. I think one of the common misconceptions can be, oh, my cat's indoors, he's probably bored, so I'll get him a friend or her a friend. They're not social species. They're quite content on their own. And actually, if you add another cat into that sort of indoor situation, the competition for resources becomes a lot more challenging. And there's not an opportunity for that cat to say, right, well, I'm actually going to go and toilet out in your garden or in a different garden. They are sort of therefore confined to what you're providing them. So I think that's one where I'd really think carefully about adding another cat into the mix if you have got an indoor cat. But you definitely can. And we do find that there are a lot of people, the way the world is, we're living in big cities, living in a situation where you've got a garden isn't always what's available to us. So yeah, we know that there are owners out there that are looking for an indoor cat. So just having all the resources available and the right.
Oh, well, that's nice because I'm lucky. I've got a little garden, but not everyone does. So
yeah, my cat's indoor, so she will sometimes go out into the garden a little bit, but it's not a big garden, so she just has a little wander around there and comes back. But generally, she 95% of the time she's an indoor cat. But it does mean I find that because like Alison said about enrichment, I find that my house just looks like a play area for a cat, basically.
Perfect.
Like, do you know what I mean? Like, if someone comes in, they're like, "Oh, you really like cats, don't you?" It's called like I always think like catification of your house is a good way of putting it.
Absolutely.
So it's kind of
Love
like
that.
You have to just sacrifice your house basically and go. It belongs to the cat. Like it doesn't matter about what I want. So you've got scratching posts, you've got shelves and everything that they can jump up on and all kinds of things. So. Yeah, I'm sure if there was someone who's an interior designer, they'd probably think it was horrible, my house. But I don't really care because it's the playground for my cat.
Well, I painted my staircase black and put a very bright orange stair carpet down it, and I was quite chuffed with it. It looked all right, but I barely have a stair carpet now. Yeah, taken the lot out.
Yeah,
you forgive a cat for that. You wouldn't forgive a partner, would you, if they started ripping up your stair carpet?
I know what you mean. I know that's the thing. I think with with my cat. I don't know about you, Bob, but she just gets away with anything. No matter what she does, I almost praise her for things. Do you know what I mean? It's just like I can't help it. And I do like a running commentary on everything she does as well. I don't know if you find yourself,
Yeah.
she'll stretch and go, oh, that's a big stretch. She'll yawn. She'll yawn several times a day, but it's still as if it's the most amazing thing I've ever seen in my life, and she does it. So.
Has she got a big yawn?
Yeah. She's like a click when she yawns.
Yeah.
And, she's just beautiful.
We call it a mouth ghost being released when they do those big ones.
So, Bob, before we move on to our regular feature, just want to talk a bit more about Cats Protection. You've done work for Cats Protection in the past, haven't you?
Yeah, mainly my wife.
Yeah.
We both love cats, and she's a very creative lady. So yes, we've done. I think. I suppose you'd kind of call them merchandisey things, but just nice bits and pieces. Then the money goes to Cats Protection. Yeah. Not bigging anything up. Just it was something nice to do.
Yeah. And why is it important to you to, work with a charity like Cats Protection? Is it? I don't know about you, but I just find I only got into cats about 4 years ago. I never had one before, and it absolutely changed my life getting this cat.
Yeah.
And I just found myself feeling like I don't know, this kind of weird need and desire to make sure cats are looked after. I don't know. I can't explain it, but it just kind of happened.
Well, yeah, I love them dearly. I hate to think of them in distress, and I suppose for me, it's just it's that certainty that the money goes in, and you can go and see the veterinary services, you can see the buildings, you can see the work that's been done. It's not to sort of it doesn't feel like, oh, I'll give that to cats.
Yeah.
Giving it to Cats Protection means it goes to cats.
Yeah.
So it just feels, it's a nice thing to do.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, just finally, before we move on to the second section of the podcast, any projects that you're working on at the minute, Bob, that you want to mention?
I'm fishing still.
Yeah.
Still doing my gone fishing. We've got a dog on there. Love to take my cat.
Yeah.
Alison, can you? My wife says to me, I wish when Monson was a kitten, we'd taken him for walks on a lead. Is that nonsense? Is that cruel? Is that something you can do?
I really wouldn't recommend it.
Right.
So cats are very independent creatures, and I think going out on a harness, on a lead, again, think about them as their prey animals. So they want to be able to feel like they can get away. They need to be in control of their environment. And by putting them on a lead, you're taking away a lot of that control.
Yeah.
And potentially, because I've got dogs and a cat, and I've been out with my dog before and seen cats on a lead. And that's quite, people often walk them in the same place where the dogs are being walked, and they are potential predators for that cat. That's a really stressful experience for that cat. So yes, I would say it's not something that we are, that I would recommend. I think your cat, if you've got access, I can understand why you might think, I'm not being able to give access to my cat outdoors. If you've got an indoor cat, I think you're probably going to find that they're going to enjoy things like playing at the home and increasing your enrichment versus going out on a harness and a lead. I think there will be the occasional cat who will enjoy it, so it's not every single cat that's not going to enjoy it, but I don't think it's something, and certainly don't feel any guilt about the fact that you've not done that.
No, I haven't. I'd just like to take them fishing.
Yeah, do you always find that I do some things and I'm there going, I wish my cat was with me.
Yeah.
I wish I could show her this. That's what I'm like sometimes. I think, she'd love it here.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. So
I think what else I'm doing, I've got a book coming out, but there's no cats in it.
No,
there's squirrels, but I do have my next book after that has got my cat. One of the characters is a cat. That in my books, the animals talk.
Right.
So in the book after this one, it's a cat's the main character. Not the main character, one of the main characters.
Yeah. Oh, brilliant. Yeah, I look forward to that. So something we do on this podcast quite regularly, just to kind of get a bit of an insight into the way people interact with the cats. Do you have like a voice that you communicate to your cat with?
Yeah, high
Is it
pitched.
different?
Yeah.
What, like a...
Monson.
Yeah.
It's just a bit
yeah,
higher.
Yeah, I'm the same.
Come on, Monson. Chico. I say Chico to get him in.
Oh, is that the chicken?
Chicken's ready. And I used to have a voice for Mavis. She was, because Mavis was a bit fraudulent in character, a bit of like a con lady.
Right.
So she she was much more like, yes, you can do that, but it'll cost. You know, that kind of voice. But yeah, I've just used the high pitched.
Yeah, I tend to do that. I don't know why I end up doing it, but I suppose
it's because they're little. You wouldn't go, Monson.
Yeah, I just find myself doing that all the time. And I realised one time I had a couple of mates round and they were just like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "What?" I didn't even know I was doing it really. I was like, "It's just part and parcel of being a cat owner." I think we're going to move on to our next section. We're just going to take a pause here. Bob, you're staying with us, and next we're going to be going through questions sent in by our listeners, your cat's tales. On the way next. Okay, next on Cat's Got Your Tongue, it's time for your cat's tales. This is the part where we get to hear from you. So maybe you've got some cat-related drama in your life or cat confessions for us to discuss, or maybe just some cat-related questions that you need some advice on from Alison. We're all here to help, basically. But before we get to listener questions, Bob, do you have anything cat-related that you've always wanted to know? Any kind of cat-related problems currently?
Yeah, I'd like to ask Alison. I've got a set of doors in my kitchen to the outside, and just recently, I think a neighbouring cat is having a wee against the outside. So Monson has started occasionally weeing on the inside, as opposed to sort of mark it as his door. What can we do about that?
Yeah, so I think kind of inter-cat sort of territorial issues are quite common. First thing I would say, if you're noticing your cat urinating or spraying anywhere that you're not expecting, sometimes it can be some symptom of something medical. So I'd always go and start off with a vet check. The vets will often do things like a urine sample. But there are a few things, if we're suspicious that even if the cat's not necessarily urinating, there might be a cat that's coming up to the glass. We see this really, really commonly, and particularly where we've got sort of cat flaps and stuff, cats actually coming into the home and causing quite a lot of distress. As I say, cats are not obligate social creatures. They like to sort of have their own space, have control over their environment. Another cat coming into what they perceive as their sort of territory is super stressful, and that's in part why we might be seeing some of this behaviour. So things to think about, and this isn't necessarily straightforward, is are there ways, and so if this patio door does make it quite challenging, because what I often say is think about, you know, it's can we cover the window? If there's a particular spot where there's a cat regularly coming and giving your cat a bit of grief, essentially, making your cat feel a bit stressed, can we pull a curtain across? I know it's not ideal because you're probably wanting light to come through, but is there a way of, or even sort of sealing the bottom so that there's not the visibility, because sometimes it doesn't necessarily have to be the spraying, just the sight of another cat in the territory can be enough. So thinking about how you might be able to sort of seal that off, making sure your cat has got another route out into the garden if that's at all possible, because they might be thinking, and this happens a lot, my garden is my resource, that's where my toilet is. Is there another way? Is there another window you could open to let the cat go out another way, so they're not having to face this other intruder cat? And the other thing as well is thinking about litter trays, like is there, if they're using their garden as their predominant toilet, or if there are any other resources like hiding places and bits and bobs like that out there, thinking about what I can bring into the home. So if he's busting for a wee and he goes and there's this cat there and he's thinking, he's got somewhere else that he can go and use. But yeah, definitely if there are any windows or anything like that so he can go on another route, that can be really helpful. And then the other thing about, so once an animal's started urinating on a particular area, it can be really, they can be really encouraged to just go back there, and the scent, they think, oh yeah, no, this is where I'm going to go. So there are specific kind of cleaning products. You want to avoid anything with ammonia in it when you come to cleaning the area, because that will just smell a bit like cat wee, potentially. So, and there are particular products that you can use that are designed to help sort of remove the scent of animal urine. So I think those would be a good starting place. And but yeah, definitely have a check-up with your vet just in case there's anything else sort of weird and wonderful going on.
Okay, thank you.
We've got a question here from Kerry in Yorkshire, who says, I've got 3 indoor cats which I absolutely adore. She's had them since they were kittens. Molly is 5 now, but over the past few months she's been getting really needy during the night. So she's been waking Kerry up nearly every morning between 2 and 3 a.m. And she says, before I go to bed, I always make sure she's got food, water and clean cat litter. But Molly will come to the side of the bed, meow and scratch until I get out of the bed. And when I do, she just wants cuddles off me to play with her. Now, she's been told to ignore her if she's got everything she needs, but she says, I just can't ignore her. I feel really cruel if I do that. Is there anything she can suggest to help? Is there anything you can suggest, Alison? Because I've had this problem before when I go to bed, and my cat Ruby's like, no, it's not bedtime yet. And she's scratching at the door, and it's a horrible situation. I'm like, I can't ignore.
I know, it is really difficult, isn't it? And it's so common. So there's a few things that I think about here. So the first thing, again, this is a new behaviour. So I know I've said this about your question, Bob, but again, any new behaviour, always go and check out with a vet, just in case there's something. Is there some pain that's maybe sort of being inflamed at that particular time? Is there anything kind of sort of medical going on? So your vet can do kind of a full health check. But there's a few things to think about. The first thing is cats are what we call crepuscular. So that basically means that they like to be most active dawn and dusk. So have a little bit of a think about like the lighting. Is it sort of, have you got a lot of street lamps around you? Does it seem like it's nighttime at 2 or 3 in the morning, or is there like blackout blinds or anything that you could put in the house to make it feel more obviously night? And I guess I'd be thinking, well, what's she actually wanting when she wakes you up? Is it that she just wants some cuddles and affection? Is it she wants a bit of a play? Are there kind of, and she's scratching? Have we provided a scratching post, making sure she's got kind of opportunities elsewhere to do those things? So make sure she's got a scratching post somewhere else. Make sure she's maybe got some sort of toys that she can play with. I quite like those they're like kind of little tunnels that the cats can like push balls through and things like that. Thinking about, is there stuff that I can provide outside of the bedroom elsewhere, so she can, if she's waking up at that time and that's her kind of like active playtime. And think about what you're doing throughout the rest of the day. Like, is she having an opportunity to, like I say, there's that innate hunting behaviour that cats have got. Are you giving her any sort of opportunity to get that out of her earlier in the day? Might sort of introducing some play before bedtime be a good sort of routine to try and get her into. And then the final thing, I'm thinking, we're talking about, we've got 3 indoor cats. Again, we've got that can sometimes be a bit more of a challenging situation. Is there anything going on with resources? What we normally say for things like litter trays, water bowls and food, they all need to be separate from each other. And you should really aim for having 1 per cat and then an extra. So that's quite a lot of toilets, there's quite a lot of food bowls. But what you might be finding is that cats will sometimes move between different parts of the house, and it might be that there's some sort of point at that night where 2 cats are wanting to get into, fight over resources or I've got competition for resources, and that might be her cue to go and say, right, well, actually, if I can't get to this, I'm going to go and get to my mum. So just making sure that everything else is sort of set up in the home okay, and that there are access to resources. And thinking about introducing some toys that could be an alternative. I think if you're, certain that you don't want to have her disturbing you, you probably do need to be consistent, and maybe whether there is a way of sort of, so she's not scratching on your door, is there another sort of sealant, sort of a way of sealing the corridor or something? I don't know the setup of your house, but is there another door that you can close so you're not having, and sort of, I think the human behaviour sort of part of it, we feel guilty, don't we? And I've been in this position before when my little cat's been sort of, I want to come in. And sort of partners have been quite annoyed about that in the past, because I've been like, oh no, it's fine, the cat's more important than you. Of course you can come in the bed. But I think if you do that, you do then set a bit of a precedent. So I would say, like, try as much as you can. I know it's really hard, but to be consistent if that's not what you want to happen, and add all those other bits in. But definitely start off with a vet check.
Well, the cat is... might be stupid, but the cat wouldn't be like sad because you're not letting him in.
Well, they might be frustrated. I guess you're essentially something that they want. Well, we're assuming. I guess I don't know whether are you then going and feeding the cat and it's actually food that the cat wants.
Yeah.
So there might be some frustration there. So it's thinking about, well, what can I offer to offset that frustration? But as long as you're giving your cat plenty of attention through the day, which I'm sure that Kerry is, that I don't think we should we don't need to worry about the cat being sad.
Yeah,
the cat
yeah.
will survive.
Just in my mind.
Is there anything like when I remember when my children were young, there was always that advice that if they're crying at night, you have to go through an awful few days by just ignoring till they realise it's fine, they're safe. And is there a similar thing with cats? You've just got to go through.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to make any sort of parenting style recommendations as well, because that's definitely out of my ballpark. But so I think, yeah, it's all about consistency. If your cat does start vocalising during the night, again, if it's a new behaviour, it's something I definitely want to check out. You were talking a bit about your cat having hypothyroidism. Unusual vocalisation is often an early sign that we see of hypothyroidism and other health conditions.
Yeah, because my cat started doing that.
Yeah, exactly. So I think if it's something that's new, I wouldn't ignore it. You might need to ignore it for your own sleep benefits. But if you're noticing that your cat's suddenly starting vocalising, you don't necessarily want to go and sort of offer yourself as the answer to that, but there probably is something going on if it's new. So it's either something medical or something that's going on in the environment that you need to change. Maybe there's a cat turning up at the window at that time of day or time of night, and that's what's causing the vocalisation. Yeah. So it probably needs a bit of investigation.
Yeah. I should say I didn't do that with my children, but I do remember you hear that you could, it's not something you could bear to do, but you do hear that that's something that people do.
We've got another question here from Jessie about her older cat called Buster. And it kind of links into something that Bob mentioned earlier as well about cats' teeth. So Jessie says, I wanted to ask about brushing cats' teeth. I've heard so many conflicting opinions about it. I know I've got to get some confirmed advice. I know cats can really suffer with teeth problems. So is there anything we can actually do to help them in any way? Should we be brushing their teeth ourselves? And how do we do it? If that, I've never brushed my cat's teeth. I don't know if I should be doing it or not. I sometimes give her those like dental treats that are meant to. I don't know how much they work though. I mean,
yeah, So it's difficult. So dental disease is something cats get in the same way that people and lots of different animals do get. I think the first thing I would say is the best tip I would make is making sure you're having a regular checkup with your vet. So at least annually, as part of that checkup, because I think the first thing as well is that often as owners, it's really difficult for us to look in a cat's mouth and assess how well their teeth are. So your vet will be really able to advise, and every cat is an individual. So I would always take the advice of your vet as to what needs to happen. Teeth brushing, it's a difficult one. There are going to be some cats that are going to tolerate it. And I think the earlier in a cat's development, you can start introducing things like sort of examination and the touching of the mouth. Oftentimes, by the time we get a cat, some of that window of opportunity is gone and a cat has decided what it will and won't tolerate. And there are, you can potentially do some very sort of some cats will be open to sort of a gentle introduction, and there's specific cat toothpaste that you can use. There are really nice soft finger brushes that you can use. So starting off really gently with just them being used to having the toothbrush and the toothpaste around. Handily, the toothpaste does taste quite nice for a cat. It's normally like fishy flavour, so they can starting off with just sort of introducing it as something they might want to sort of lick off the toothbrush. And kind of giving lots of sort of positive reinforcement. So, but yeah, taking it really, really slowly. But I don't think I would ever, and it's really interesting because I look back on the advice I used to give when I was in practice, and now I think I probably recommend slightly differently, because I don't think it is going to be a possibility for every cat, and owners shouldn't beat themselves up too much if they're not always able to brush their teeth. There are other things that we can do. So there are some diets that are particularly crunchy that can be quite good for the teeth. Sometimes even just using the toothpaste and sort of smearing it on the gums. They've got special like enzymes in them that help break down the tartar. But I think the best advice would be going to see your vet every year, making sure that they do a dental checkup. And there might be points, as we sort of talked about earlier with your cat, Bob, that they might need to have a dental, and being, it can seem like a bit of a scary procedure. Cats aren't going to stay still for their scale and polish, so we do need to do a general anaesthetic, but it is a really good, it definitely makes a difference. And often you don't realise what a difference it makes until the cat's had the dental and is so much happier. It can transform cats, and owners always used to come into me and say, oh, you're right, he did need a dental, he's so much happier. So, but yeah, just keeping updated with your vet, I think, is the best thing to do.
So we've got a final question here, Bob, I mentioned before that, you're someone that I really wanted to get onto this podcast, and we wanted to squeeze a question in that was specifically for you from one of our listeners. Comes from Les, and Les says, I've had a load of health problems in the past few years, but I think having a couple of cats has really helped keep me positive and relaxed. You can't really get too stressed when you got a cat on your lap. Have your cats ever helped you in that sense in your life? Do you find, because I find it very relaxing to have a cat
I
around.
think I when they're gone, that's when you notice, how helpful they were to your mental health as just well as the fun of it all. But I do remember with my cat Mavis, I was writing a book, a novel, and I was really struggling with it. But I would write on my laptop with Mavis sat on my chest, and as if we were doing it together. You know what I mean? And now I'm writing another book. I really miss that. So although I wasn't kind of aware of it, it was a lovely thing to have. It's kind of company. It's sort of grounding as well. Yeah. Another animal working along with you. Yeah. In my mind. Yeah. But I can't imagine a life without a cat. Yeah. I just can't.
Yeah. No, I'm exactly the same. I used to have another cat and lost her out a year ago. And I'd only had her for a few months. And she had an underlying health problem that I didn't know about. And it took me a long time to get over it. I'd never experienced losing a pet before. Yeah. And it was just, I found it really, really tough. And I couldn't accept it for a long time. And I just found it really difficult.
No, I still think about Mavis a lot. I did. With Mavis, she was such a special cat to the house. When she passed away, we had her cremated and her ashes put in a little box, and I think it was a nice thing to do. I think it does help with the grieving. I like having the little box there. When Middlesbrough are playing, we put a candle on top of the box to ask Mavis to help with the result. And she's still got a little presence in the house. I thought it was a very nice thing to do. I feel sad that in the past I think I've just left them at the vets. Perhaps that was what we used to do. But I thought it was a lovely thing to do, a nice way to help with that, or those awful, terrible days.
Yeah, no, I did the same. I think they give you, I know it's not, it's something that cat owners, you don't really think about until it happens. And it was so out of the blue for me with that situation. She was only 5, so it was completely like one day, it was just happened. And it was like, I had no preparation for anything. And it kind of hit me harder than losing like an elderly family member, and I felt really guilty about that for a long time. That kind of, I think, because when I've lost our elderly relatives and stuff, I was expecting that, but this was so sudden, and I just didn't know how to handle it for the first few weeks. It was
5 years, very cruel, isn't it?
Yeah, it's absolutely terrible. I was just going, how do I process this? And I actually think what you said, Bob, like having something that's sort of tangible, like. You still feel like there's a presence there almost, and like still part of the household, that kind of thing. And,
but I would recommend it.
But I think interesting from a mental health perspective. I think for me personally, like having a cat has just like I think it's made me a better person.
Yeah.
Like, and I think other cat people kind of get that. And I try to explain it to friends that haven't got cats necessarily, and they're a bit like, "What do you mean?" I said, "I don't know. It makes me like." More empathetic, more like sympathetic to other people. It makes me, I don't know, happier as well, I think, I suppose. Which I think is probably a good kind of way to get into our final question that we generally like to ask, Bob, is what's the best thing about having a cat?
It's lovely to have something to care for. I think that is a need in us all, somewhere deep down. I think when we had a doctor on our fishing show, and he was saying, I won't get the story quite right, but he cried his eyes out when he was telling the story that thousands of years, I'm not very good with that sort of thing, when sort of pre-civilization, they'd found evidence via the bones that the community had cared for this person who was not contributing much to the community. And he's crying his eyes out telling us. And he was saying, that there is a deep need within us to care for something, to have something to care for. It might be just your garden, I suppose. I don't know, but a cat certainly fulfills that need. I find them great. I talk to my cats all the time, and talk back to myself in their voices, So, and I love that dialogue, and it helps me creatively as well, because little stories come out from the stories that I'm chatting to my cat about, and I give my cat little characters, and then lo and behold, they'll appear on some of the things I'm doing on TV or in books. Those little characters that have come from my cat in a way, and they're so pretty, and that ain't a bad thing. And they're fascinating to watch as well. Fascinating. Yeah, as I say, couldn't live without one, I don't think.
Yeah, and they've made your life better.
Oh, for sure, yeah. I wonder where Chester is.
On tour.
Yeah, on tour, yeah. Yeah, maybe in Europe.
Yeah,
maybe. Eastern Europe, jazz band.
Yeah. So you could never imagine life without a cat now?
No, I remember Chester once leapt at me, bit my hand, and I was poking around in an open fire and in my dressing gown, and whatever reaction I did, it set fire to the cord on my dressing gown. The flames were coming up for it, and my wife ran over with a magazine and smacked me over the head. What are you doing?
Just a panic.
She said, "I'm so sorry." Yeah. She just smacked me over the head. So that maybe that's when Chester left. I might get smacked on the head with a magazine if I don't get out of here.
Oh, brilliant! Well, Bob, thanks so much for joining us on Cat's Got Your Tongue. It's been so good to have you, and it's just been fascinating finding out about your cats. And
thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. And thanks, Alison, as well, for stepping in and
thanks.
providing
It's been a
some
dream.
expertise. So don't forget, hit subscribe to the show so you never miss an episode. Tell your friends who love cats about us. Share the podcast, give us a review. And if you want to get in touch and share your own cat's tales, you know what to do. Send us an email on pod@cats.org.uk, or you can send us a text or a voice note to our WhatsApp on 07824 551 076. We'll see you next time on Cat's Got Your Tongue. So, have you ever wondered why your cat doesn't want to drink their water? Or maybe you've got a moggy who treats your sofa like a scratching post. Or you've got a cat who's hiding, or they've gone off their food. Well, Cats Protection cat behaviour videos could help. You can sign up to weekly emails with advice from Cat's Got Your Tongue cat behaviour expert Nicky Trevorrow. And you can find the sign up link in the show notes.